Welcome back. We are going to continue to learn how to use multiple sources when we are reading, specifically with nonfiction informational texts. And this week we're going to focus, and next, on doing this in regards to doing some research. We're going to do a little bit of a research project to use these skills. So we're going to take, once again, multiple sources, integrate that information, bring it together, combine it to answer different questions, a research question. And so to demonstrate your skill, we've been practicing this, we're going to step it up a notch and actually have you do a little bit of a research project. And so I'm going to actually do a separate screen to do this. And so for this task, you are going to gather and organize information from different sources. We're going to use media. We talked about multimedia and different media sources over the last couple weeks. We're going to use that to enhance our presentation. That will come down the road. And then we will pose different follow-up questions and try to find information to answer those questions. And so this is a process. We're not doing this over one day or even over 1 week. We're going to use this little mini project as our way to try out different parts of our lessons each day. And so you're going to choose a research question. I've narrowed it down to 2 choices. Then we'll collect and organize your information. Just all of this should be in your reader's or writer's notebook. You'll be writing this stuff down, taking notes and writing things down in a composition book, in a notebook. Then you'll create your presentation and actually show that presentation in a way. We're going to be providing that information at the end in a presentation, and then you are going to interact with your peers throughout this process at the end. So let's talk about a rubric. A rubric, of course, hopefully you know, is a way to score and evaluate how much you have learned, what you have improved on, what you still need work on, and it communicates the expectations that we, the teachers, have for you as students. And so let's take a look at a rubric here. There's 3 parts to it. And once again, this is just going to encompass several weeks. So this might seem like a lot at the start, and you might not know what all of these steps are, but it's always good to preview ahead of time so you know how you're graded, so you know what the expectations are. And so the first part here is this standard says uses multiple print or digital sources to answer each research question. And so you can see here, to get full points, you need to include at least 3 different sources that are cited. You have to tell me where you got that information. And so today we'll talk about Mayan and how there might be some sources for you to use there. And so if you fully do this, depending on how well you have integrated this information into different sources, and if you told me where it is, you'll get the full points. You're not there yet, meaning you don't have enough sources or you didn't tell me where it's located. You can see the span from 0 through 4 points here. The next thing we're going to look at is your presentation. Is it organized with topics and details that flow together? Basically, we'll directly address this in some of our lessons. And so once again, you're not even doing this yet, but we'll talk about how to get your introduction and how to present things logically in a sequence so that it summarizes everything you need to know. And then there is the rubric that spans. As long as you do this clearly and it fits your presentation, then you're in good shape. Part 2 of this relates to what are you going to use to enhance your presentation? Graphics, sounds, different media. This will come next week in our lessons where we are going to ask you to actually use some different forms of information to present it, whether it be different graphics or sounds or links to different things. And so we'll talk about what your options are, but you will be graded on that. In addition, you can see that the graphics, sounds, and other media elements enhance your main idea. And so really with this part 2, we haven't jumped into it yet, but just know that this is something that you will be graded on at the end. And then part 3, you're going to be asked to come up with some follow-up questions. After you've done some research, you're going to say, okay, what do I still want to know or learn? Or were there some extra questions that came up as I was doing research that I'm curious about? So you'll pose 2 follow-up questions, and then you're actually going to look for ways to answer those questions. And so there'll be a checklist, and I will have this available to you. So once again, this is long-term, big picture, but just so you know, your presentation needs to have at least 3 cited sources that go directly with your question. You articulate the research in your introduction, and we'll cover that specifically about your intro later on. I present information in a logical sequence. We'll talk about how to organize that. I use multiple media elements and can explain how they enhance the main idea they tie to it. So think about how we did different multimedia with The Wizard of Oz, where it could be in written form, it could be in sound form, it could be in video, different media. We'll do some more stuff related to that. And then I present a summary of my findings and a conclusion. You're going to present what you found. And so after this, after you've done your presentation, you'll also have a checklist. You're going to share it with others, have those relevant follow-up questions, and how you're going to find the answers to those questions that you have. Okay, so here are the 2 questions you're going to choose from. Choice 1, why did President Truman decide to use nuclear weapons at the end of World War II? We're just jumping into our study of World War II, so this is kind of a preview, and it helps us to really integrate our language arts with social studies. So this is not just about the dropping of these atomic weapons. This is related to leading up to this moment, what was happening in the war, what was happening in the world, and where can you find some different sources that goes along with this. Your other option is, how did the role of women change after World War II? And this is a big concept that we will study, and it is true that the role of women really was shifted to encompass a lot of things. Women played a huge role in World War II, and moving forward. So we are going to study that. So you're going to choose one of those 2 options and actually fill out a Google form telling me which one of those you choose. Okay. Your project is not due for a while. Okay, we have all of this week, all of next week, and moving into that week of December 14th. So those of you that want to jump in and do this right away, it's not a huge project as far as what you need to actually produce, but it is a long project because we're going to be taking our mini lessons and applying it to this project. So it's a running thing. You do not have to jump into it and get a lot of it finished right away. I'll walk you through those steps. Okay, so going back to where we were, I'm going to use this as an example here. Let's take a look and say if this is one of our research topics that we're choosing. Okay, we're going to study today to finish up our lesson, what does the table of contents offer us that's going to help us as researchers? And we've talked about this some. So for example, I'll choose this question. How did the role of women change during the time period just prior to World War II and the time period immediately following World War II? That, as my example, is what I would choose. If that were my choice here, then I'm going to do something called the hop in and hop out strategy. Okay, and so really we think about this question, and we've talked about this, but we haven't called it that, the hop in and hop out. Here's how you do it. You're going to use the table of contents kind of to preview and search for, is this resource a good source of information for me to answer my research topic? As you do research going forward, you're going to have to find a variety of sources. And some sources, a book might look like it has stuff, or an article or a website, and then you sort through it and you're like, I don't even think this really is what I'm looking for. You need a quick and easy way to figure out if this is the right resource for you. And so you're going to hop in right away, do a quick little preview, and hop out and move directly to the point of most the most helpful point to answer your question. So first you start with your question. In this example, I'm talking about the role of women in World War II. I'm asking myself, what am I hoping to learn here? Then you look at the table of contents with this question in mind, and here is the key. You may have to think of other words that mean similar things to the topic, okay? Because if you look at the chapter and what it's labeled, it might not just say the role of women during World War II, okay? It might not even use the word role. It might not use the word World War II, okay? It might not even use the word women. It might say how others contributed to World War II. You have to think about the wording of the table of contents, and as you're skimming through, is this something that can help me, okay? Can the table of contents help you? And really, what chapter are you going to read first? Because this is, and I know that's cut off a little bit down there, but what chapter or topic will you read first? Because you're going to not read entire books here. And so let's take a look at this. If we talk about these two books are on Mayan, we can do it. Stories of Women in World War II and the women behind Rosie the Riveter, working for the U.S. war effort. We're going to talk more about Rosie the Riveter and the role of women in our social studies unit for World War II, but right now these two books are excellent sources by title only. What we need to do, if I can jump in here, is I have to be in Mayan. So I'm in Mayan here, and I am going to click on this book. And what you need to know, I already clicked on this, so I'm going to start over here. What you need to know is, okay, I have this book, I have the title, but is this something that's going to help me? If in Mayan you go to other pages here, because you just jump in as the intro and it'll get you going right away. If you go to other pages, it will allow you to choose the contents. You look at the table of contents, and you see here specific names of women. It looks like a secret agent, ferry pilot, a gun maker, Navy nurse and prisoner of war. And so these tell me, as I'm skimming, specific people and their story during World War II, how they contributed. And then you have other important figures and a timeline. So I'm going to look at the pages and say, okay, is this something that's going to help me, and where should I start? And you can jump to the page you want. You wouldn't do this always with a book that you're trying to enjoy from cover to cover, but when you are researching, what table of contents will help you? Same thing here. Women behind Rosie the Riveter. I click on here. If I continue this book, because I've started it, it will have me go directly to the book. But if I click on the other pages here and look at the table of contents, I'll be able to see different choices. Okay, I don't want to get into too much thinking here, since this might be one of the choices that you guys use, but you can see how to use table of contents, and you'll hop in, explore a little bit, go to the pages, see if this is what you want, and then record some information. You don't have to answer a lot. Maybe write down a few things if you find details that will help you answer your question for today. Okay? And so, what do you need to do? You are going to choose a research topic and fill out a link to a Google form just telling me which of the two choices. Then you're going to go on Mayan and look for a book or two that can answer your question. And you only have to write down a handful of ideas right now. Definitely record the book title and the page number and start taking notes, but you'll have really 2 weeks to do this, so you only have to do a little bit. Then you're going to record a flip grid of how did you use the table of contents, and then what source did you find,
And what did you find? You don't have to read it all, but just give a quick little summary. You'll do that in a Flipgrid. This can count towards your 30 minutes, and then you do your reading step log. So good luck.